If I got it rolling more than this, then I would have to worry about boil ups, where it would boil up and over. And I've got hot pads right here ready to go in case it starts coming up. I can grab that pan and lift it up off the heat. Or since it's a gas stove, I can turn down the heat right away, but I would grab the pan first. I do not want to boil over. I like being married. It takes a while, even in the house. And it's tempting to walk away and do a little chore or something else. But I try not to walk away. While it's boiling in the house, I try to stay with it all the time. Because you just never know, and it's going to suddenly boil up. Alright, I'm going to bring in. That's a nice boil right there. That's a good gentle boil, but it's productive. See the steam escaping. It's almost too much of a boil where I would want to turn it down, but since I'm standing right here, I'm going to let it go just like it is now. You can see where it's already gone down a little bit. That's encouraging. This will be syrup when it's 7 degrees above the boiling point of water. Now I don't say 212 is the boiling point of water because that can change depending on what's going on in the atmosphere around us or the altitude where you might live. So the best is to check the boiling point of water for that day. Typically, if I get a thermometer in there and it gets to 219, that's good enough. Usually I don't even use a thermometer. I simply let the syrup drip off my spoon. And when it starts to glop, it starts to drip off that spoon like syrup would do, I say glop, or apron off the spoon. That's when I'm done. The way I preserve maple syrup is I stick it in the freezer. So I'm not too concerned if it's not technically syrup, because when I put it in the freezer, that keeps that syrup from fermenting. Otherwise, if I put it in a quart jar, put the lid on, and set it on a shelf, over time that syrup could start to ferment, and it could burst that jar eventually as pressure builds in that jar. But I store it in the freezer, put it in quart jars, loosen that, tighten that lid, and then loosen it just a little bit so that it has a little bit of space in case when it freezes it expands a little bit, then it can push the air out without cracking the jar. We are getting close to syrup, true syrup here. Let's check the aproning test. Spoon going in, trying to hold it right where you can see it. Watch that last one, you see it? That coming off that spoon like syrup, right? Watch this. Did you see that? That was the beginning of an apron drip. Watch it now. Did you see that? This one now. Is there going to be one more? Oh yeah. There it is. See that? Right there. Now that we've had the apron test and it started to apron, let's check the thermometer. See what we've got here for temperature. 215, can you believe it? 215 and a half. We need to go up a couple more degrees yet before it's technically syrup. And that'll taste really good. It'll be a little bit watery, but we're kind of used to that at our house. It's really starting to do it. It's starting to apron nicely. See that? It pulls away differently than it does when it's watery. That one right there, you could really tell. So, We're done. Hey, should we do a taste? It's good. It's rich, mapley, mild, not strong like later in the season. It'll be stronger. This is fairly early in the season yet. We're at the midpoint of the season. It's definitely good and mapley. Delicious. All right, let's get it filtering. I want you to watch while I filter it. Here's what I'll use. I got a 2-gallon cooler here with a filtering cone. Sorry to have to pour away from you, but I don't dare do it backwards for you to see it. I don't want to miss. Look at that. Look at it glop off or apron off the pan. Look at that. Beautiful. Those last drips look just like syrup. Now, while it's good and hot is when it filters best. So I'm going to raise that filter up and let it drain out. There it goes. See that? I'm going to keep it low in there so it stays hot. And that's what I do. I let it drain out. I'll get a pair of tongs to help hold this, or if the bottom of this filter gets dirty enough from filtering now, then I'll need to raise up on a different area of the filter so that it can reach a new location on the filter, and then it will drain more quickly. Bottling time. I don't fill them all the way. I leave a little bit of expansion room because when we freeze them, if it's not really totally syrup, it might freeze, or a portion of it might freeze. If it was technically syrup, 7 degrees above, the boiling point of water, a lot of it won't freeze because of the high sugar content. This, maybe half of it will freeze. Half of it stays liquid even in the freezer. That's beautiful. You get the sun behind it like that, a little light behind it, gorgeous syrup. That's a beautiful sight right there. A lot of hard work, but it sure does taste good. You just can't buy syrup that tastes like this. Thanks so much for watching, everyone.